Heyo. So Thursday. Today was a pretty darn good day. It felt good to kind of get back to being a tech, and I did, and it felt good, and I feel good. So it's a good spin, for the week. Um, 3 cars came in this morning. The one car that was dropped off last night that we talked about, that Dodge Caravan, I checked it out first thing this morning. Got in here pretty early and did the DVI, did the solid quick diag on a bad starter or a wire connection. So we'll talk about that one in a minute. And then the other car was an AC concern on a 12 Raptor, and we have a hole in the condenser. We'll talk about how that AC process went and how we do it in my shop. It's how I suggest doing it. But I'm listening to other advice, so we can talk about that too. And then the third car that was here was a Mini Cooper for a cabin filter because their kid left a banana in the car and smelled like death. So they're like, I need you to change the cabin filter. And let me tell you, those things suck, man. You gotta be a contortionist to change that stupid thing. So we got that done, and it was here for a state inspection. It's got 40,000 miles on it. Tires may have been rotated once or something, and they were chewed up. And they were run flats. One tire was failed in inspection. The other one barely passed at 230 seconds. So the customer declined tires. I go to Costco for tires. Like, you're going to Costco on a 23 Mini Cooper. That's a beautiful car. Just some people, man, And we actually gave her a couple options because it's got run flats on it. And, those run flats might cost them like $279 a piece, right? So, like, the issue we have is that because of the lack of rotations, you're kind of all screwed, and you're just going to be like in this bad area with tires for the rest of the time unless you put, 4 tires on it. But yeah, 5 30-seconds on the ones in the back, or 6 30-seconds. We had 5 and 6. And Pirelli run flats. So they declined the run flats. I don't even think they... I need to listen to the phone call because I want to see how my wife presented that, because I want to make sure that we gave them options for some other tires, that aren't run flats, that are $150 less a tire or something, right? Not that they would have bought it, but I don't know. So they failed inspection. So they didn't buy anything, which they didn't really need anything except for that. But okay, let's talk about the 2 cars and how our process went and how we went about doing it, right? So this car right here, that Raptor, we had a failed condenser on this side. Now, live data, I can see that this cooler bracket over here rubbed a hole in the bottom of the condenser. Again, we'll go over how we do it. So we have an AC concern. I have an hour and a half on the ticket. I figure an hour for evac and charge if needed, a half hour for any other kind of testing and leak finding, that kind of stuff. Live data, typically a half an hour to go through an AC system on top of that is enough. Sometimes it's not. When I do sell it, I present it as we do minor electrical testing. We're definitely using scanner live data, fault codes, leak checking, and that kind of thing. But I always try to say we're going to do minor electrical testing to, I'm not trying to get into some crazy CAN bus network problem for that, right? So here's where you guys can get tripped up, and I learned from experience. This one was a little bit different because it wouldn't even hold a vacuum. And I'm like, well, my choices are, I can see that it's being commanded, the compressor. So when I looked at live data, I did not have any pressure readings. So without looking at the wiring schematic, I'm going to assume that it has a pressure interrupter switch, low or high pressure, that turns off the compressor. That's what I'm assuming. I could be wrong. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to have power at the compressor if I don't have a pressure reading. That's my thoughts. And that compressor was buried down in there. There's a shield on the bottom. I didn't feel like doing that. So what I did was I shoved refrigerant in it temporarily, and it was leaking out of the condenser. But I was able to cycle it and make sure the compressor turned on. I put enough refrigerant in it to see if it got cool even, and then I immediately shut it off, evac it back down again. And in my opinion, I think that's the right thing to do. My tech was like, oh, sell the condenser, and then there's no way for us to check the integrity of the clutch. We can energize the clutch and see if it does, but we don't know if it's going to spin or anything. And I think that's wrong, right? And it's my shop, and I'm the one working on the freaking car anyway, so that's what I did. And I think that's the right thing to do. So if you think that's wrong, tell me why, and maybe I'll change my process. What I don't want to do is put $1,000 condenser job on this guy's truck and then tell him, hey, it needs a compressor, it's also another $1,200. You know, like that. That's how you get bad reputation, bad reviews, and disgruntled customers, in my opinion. They pay you for an eval, charge appropriately for the proper evaluation, and then there's there's less surprises, okay? So that's how we handled that AC job. So again, pop down in there and tell me if I'm JoJo the Duck again, or if it's a good idea. The other car, let's talk about this situation with this van. Because I kind of rattled this one around in my head a little bit, and eventually I came out with, I think, the most moral way to do it, which I'll try to explain how and why it's like a little weird for me, right? I'm trying to put this down, start walking. There we go. So the way I did this one, what we had was an intermittent no crank, and I got the scanner on it. Key was, and it's got a WINS module, right? So the key's being recognized, and I can see that the starter's being enabled. So I'm like, okay, so that makes me feel good. So I went out to the starter relay, put my relay tester on it, and I powered the starter with the key off. And it cranked, it cranked, it cranked, it cranked. It didn't crank. Oh, here we go. So now I know that the problem is from the relay forward. So I'm like, good. And then the relay checker, I can check like the power coming into it. So that's good, and it didn't change. So I know it's from the relay forward. You know, so I do a visual inspection of the starter, and the starter was replaced 2 years ago. She couldn't find any paperwork, and they put one of those cheap spades on. So it must have been burnt up. And I tried finding a pigtail, I couldn't find anything. So I'm not gonna fault the last guy that did this job and put some, you know, the Chinesiest nylon butt connectors on there or not, because it might be what I have to do too, I don't know. I don't want to. So I'm like, well, that could be the problem. And on this one, like the cat has to come out to even get access to it. So I can't even pull it down and test it. I can't really apply power to it. I tried using like I have a long probe, and I can't get onto it that way to try to test it. And I'm like, man, I wanted to sell a starter right off the bat. I'm like, I initially wrote it up as a starter and a spade connector, and this is how much it is. And I kind of started thinking, I'm like, man, she needs to know the whole truth. Like, there's a possibility that this spade connector is the only thing that's wrong with it. But in order to get to it and get it out and do the testing properly, it's like 3 hours or 2.5 hours of labor, right? And then the starter, it's already there. I almost have to have it out anyway, especially if I'm going to bench test a starter or something. And, but I think the customer needs to know, right? So I don't want to automatically say, hey, it needs a starter. Especially, this is one thing too that kind of crossed my mind, because I'm always trying to figure out what happens if this person declines the job and goes to somewhere else for a second opinion or someone that's cheaper. And they look at it and be like, oh, it has a bad connection on the starter. And their labor rate is 2/3 of mine. And they don't understand like GP per hour or whatever. And they fix that car for like $200, right? And my estimate for a starter was, you know, $1,100. And it's like, oh, they're just trying to get me to buy a starter. No. And I'm not, but I wanted to be able to offer a repair, because what happens is if we do this spade and there's no way for me to tell 100% that it's not the starter or whatever the case is, are you willing to take a gamble on me doing all that labor to put a spade on it, put it back together again, and start it a bunch of times to find out that, oh, we got to do it all over again and pull the starter back out? So it's like, well, no, that doesn't make sense. And she agreed. So we told the truth. And we gave her the option, but I'm like, well, I really don't want to do this. But if she's that hard up for money, I mean, I assume we could probably start it with the cat off. I guess, and no, I don't want to do that because it's probably going to melt the fan because it's right there. So it would have to go back on at least temporarily. And so luckily she was on board. And then another thought crossed my mind. We gave this customer an option on this AFM delete or the AFM repair that is biting us sort of right now. We're losing customer. I mean, luckily he's a friend of mine, like old coworker. But if it wasn't for that, he'd be like, bro, why am I spending so much money? Why was this other bank not found? And this is the first time we've ever done one of these repairs without doing a delete. And this will probably be my last one that I'm ever going to do unless I'm buying a car like that and I take the chance on it. So that sucks, right? It sucks for everybody. I'm doing work at a discount because I feel like I want to. I don't have to. And he's spending more money than, at this point, it would have been cheaper to do the delete, more than likely. Well, about the same, but it would have been a better system. And so given the options, kind of sucks. It feels good that you're being transparent with the customer, but then it opens up the liability aspect of it, which I like to talk about a lot. So then you have the liability of like, well, we gave you the option and it chose poorly. Now she spent, I don't know, $600 doing the repair and it didn't work. And then she's got to spend another $1,000 to do the starter again anyway. So, but I don't really know, like I didn't want to lie to her. I'm going to say, well, I guess what I should have said, this is what we think it is. This is the only way that we're going to do it is we put a starter in it. You can take your chances somewhere else. And that's probably a really good thing to do. It's like, hey, I'm telling you that it could be only this one thing, but here, in order to protect us, everyone involved, this is how we want to do it. And you can say no. You don't go to Wendy's and ask for a hot dog, right? So, well, if you do, that would be kind of funny. Record it, please. Start a YouTube channel. So that's how those two kind of things went out. So numbers-wise, let's talk about that. I do need to get this van done tonight. I need to get this done. We have 4 cars coming in tomorrow, and I think all of them verified. Plus, I have to get that evaporator done, or the condenser done on that thing. And so that's going to be a challenge, right? We're going to have a lot of work here to do tomorrow. And then on top of that, we still have to do the other work that is coming in, and the AFM car has to get done. So let's show you kind of where we are with this guy. As of right now, we're getting close to their break-even point. All right. So when we close out some of these tickets, we should be pretty close to breaking even. Gross sales with tax. Now you can see that my GP is starting to get closer to my target of 65%. And the reason you can tell that is because these needles are getting closer together. So you can tell that my GP percentage is starting to climb and these needles are starting to even out. Again, if you're not watching the channel throughout, tires is what kind of screwed this up. You're selling real expensive tires and that kind of thing is going to drop your GP, but your gross profit dollars is going to be pretty decent, and that's starting to balance out again. So sold gross profit, you can see that if we get all of this work that is currently in the shop and being sold right now, that's already sold and waiting for us to do the work, we're going to be at about another 12.5. And at that point in time, we're up to 19,000 in gross profit dollars. And that's something, right? That's like, we're pegging the needle, right? Now, for the guys that are watching that aren't a shop owner, think, oh my God, you're charging too much, right? You're way over target. We lost money last week. So just because I might have made money this week doesn't mean I'm winning. So, keep that in mind. And then, so my average repair order is still way higher than target, and I like that. So that's good. And I don't think the average repair order, this is going off of what's closed. So this $13,000 DOD car, the AFM car, that's going to freaking skyrocket that up even higher, because this is only what's closed. Hours wise, let me show you my hours too. So let's go back to this. We'll go to reports. This is shopware, the best. And let me go to this week. So you can see my text sitting at 27. I'm gonna sit at 9.3. When we close out this car, I think it's like 2.6 plus the 1 hour eval, so 3.6, and then a DVI, which is a half hour. So 4 hours on this car that we're going to close out. As bad as this car looked, it's not as bad in real life, right? It needs engine mounts, like bad. I thought it needed sway bar links or control arms or something. When I go over bumps, it sounds like, that. And I think it's the engine bouncing up and down. That's how bad they are. So, she's going to have to slowly chip away at that. But for now, she wants to make sure the van starts. And she's got a kid in a wheelchair too. So I'm trying to get this van done for her tonight so she can have it back tomorrow as early as possible. Really nice girl. I like her. Trying to do that for her. I had 2 cars dropped off today for an appointment that's next week and the week after, because we're scheduled all the way out until Monday the 7th. Actually, Wednesday the 9th. We have appointments all the way out to Wednesday the 9th now. And we're closed. We're probably not going to be in the shop on Tuesday because my guy's got a personal day he's got to take. And I'm a Continental Tire dealer, probably the smallest one in the area, I'm sure. And they probably had like an extra seat or something at this like drive and training event. So they called us up and were like, hey, we got 1 ticket for a drive event. We'll pay for your hotel. Just be here. And you got training in like one morning and then a drive event. I think it's like it's 2 days. It's training and a driving event. So maybe I made it. I made it because Continental reached out and said, you want to go drive some BMWs on a racetrack? Okay. I will make that happen. So I got to get down to South Carolina. I guess whatever that day is. I don't even know what, the 6th and 7th or the 7th and 8th, I think. So this car, this BMW, he called me up today, and I kind of didn't really want to work on this, but I'm like, we'll see, right? He paid a guy to come over and do an oil pan gasket on this BMW, jacks it up, crawls underneath it, and takes the freaking transmission pan off. I'm like, what? And he realized he took the transmission pan off, and then I don't know how that conversation went. So he had to tow it in here today, and we're doing, like, I didn't give him any price breaks or anything. I'm like, well, the only way we're going to do this is we're going to do a transmission pan and filter, and it's the 5L40 trans, so it's just regular Dexron 6 will go in that. And it came out to, like, I told him on the phone, I said it's going to be somewhere between $450 and $750, and it came out to like $511. And I told him, I said, I'm going to have you approve this. Right now, I did not put it in the shop, but if I get it in here and I find out that we don't have any broken bolts and nothing this guy did crazy, this is what it's going to be. All right. And he approved it, and it's sitting here waiting to come into the shop a week and a half from now. So that feels good. The other car that came in, the guy wanted an electrical diagnosis, is what he said, because when he pushed on the brakes went to the floor, and he has a brake fault showing up on the dash. And I was like, I kind of went a little more techie on the phone than probably what I should have as an advisor when I answered the phone. But I mean, I got the appointment and I made him feel good, and dude drove it down here using the parking brake. I'm like, bro, please don't do that. And that's what he did. And so he got it down here. It's a 16 Ram. And when he said the pedal went to the floor, the reason I said I went a little too much techie and tried to diagnose over the phone, I asked where the car came from, because he said he worked on base. So immediately I'm like, this guy travels around. He's probably in the military, and he's not. He's actually a dentist. Well, he could be an officer, I guess. Came from Illinois. So now we have a 10-year-old truck from Illinois and the brake pedal went to the floor. And I asked, did you add any brake fluid? Oh yeah, I had 2 cans of brake fluid. I said, okay, we probably have a rusted line somewhere. So I'm like, I need to charge an evaluation of that concern to give you an idea of what we're getting into. And he wanted the AC fixed. And I sold him the same process, $265, includes 1 pound of refrigerant. I won't charge you for it if I don't need it. And he's down. So how we're going to approach that one is we are going to bring it into the shop. We're going to do the DVI, give him answers on his brake pedal concern, charge him the 1 hour. And from there, we're going to give him estimates on doing the repairs and what we find on the DVI. Now, I did preface this. This is something that bit us before, and it's something you guys have to keep in mind. If you are going to try to run your shop as a 300% shop or not, it doesn't even matter. Test drive every car before you bring it in. Well, that's like a kind of a known thing now, right? But some people aren't doing that. This is what happens sometimes. When you get a car that's towed in, I'm not driving this car with no freaking brakes, okay? So I told him, I said, we will do the courtesy health checkup on this car, but understand we are not going to be able to test drive this car. So before we get into any crazy repairs, we want to make the brakes work and get those functioning. Then we will test drive the car before we do any other work. Because it happened before a few times where you do the DVI, you find a bunch of problems, you fix a bunch of problems, then you test drive the car and you find out it needs a wheel bearing. And you know, some wheel bearing jobs they're not $100, right? Some of these wheel bearings, I've done wheel bearings at like $850 for one bearing before, and that's a pretty big chunk of money. And you know, or God forbid you test drive it and the trans is messed up. Well, at that point in time, that probably would have freaking totaled the car, you know. So make sure you remember that. It's not a problem building those estimates, but you have to stop and make sure your technician knows, hey, these things are sold, probably, or they approved them, but we still have to get the car moving before we do any of these other jobs, okay? So that's like a little nugget, all right? So I'm feeling good. Want the channel to grow. If you followed this far, you're probably a solid candidate to keep the algorithm happy. And when you share it, other people will share it that have the same kind of ideas and that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm looking for. So if you wouldn't mind liking this video, I don't know how you can share it. I know you can use a share button, but I don't know how, like, who you would share it to. But feel free to share it, man. You know, so I appreciate it. Tomorrow's gonna be hectic, and we're gonna get through it. I have to get the shop cleaned up. The shenanigans starts at 6 o'clock, so I need to get like a ton of stuff done. And I don't have any drop-offs tonight. I would love to have some stuff dropped off to get a head start on it tomorrow, but it's gonna be a nightmare. But we're gonna get through it. All right. I'm smiling. I feel good. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Later.